Sorry, the music.
Hello, 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 and welcome to Take Your Pick. I'm your host, Chris Puma, and press A to continue. Yes, today we are talking about video games. No, that's too big a topic. Let's focus on video game soundtracks, ones that are so good you don't go into settings and turn the music off so you can listen to podcasts like a normal person. Now, Wikipedia defines video game music as the soundtrack that accompanies video games. So that's super helpful. They also point out that there are two types of soundtracks, original soundtracks and licensed soundtracks. And I'm super curious if anybody today is going to pick a game with licensed music. That would be an interesting choice. But picking games is what we are all about. Our panelists are going to take turns picking a video game and explaining why they picked it. Maybe, in fact, most likely, they love it. But maybe they hate it. Or maybe they're hoping that by talking about it today, they will finally get that tune out of their head. Let's see. Once a panelist picks a video game, no one else is going to get to play it again, ever again. That's it. It's cut off. You're cut off. We're gonna email the Steam people, and they're gonna turn off your key. Sorry, those are the rules. And in the event that there's a question about whether something someone picks counts as a video game, well, I'm the moderator. I get final say. But I do like a weird challenge to the rule set. So, what true gamers are going to be playing Take Your Pick today? Well, in the randomly determined order that they will be picking, we have, first of all, no problem. She can carry a good bit of gear. It's Melissa Beaupré.
Let's smash.
Then, coming to us live from Tokyo 3 from Get in the Freaking Podcast, it's Javier Marasevich.
Hello, everyone. I'm happy to be here, and I'm ready to be very basic about my choices, so forgive me.
Oh, that is perfectly fine. And then, with a waltz for every underwater level, it's video game composer Pete Gresser.
I just took the warp pipe here.
And well into his third decade of avoiding the Noid from It's Just a Show and a Part of Our Heritage, it's TV's Adam Clark.
Don't do what Sonic does.
And frantically modding Dark Souls so she can play as Ernest Hemingway from Polygon, it's Simone de Rochefort.
I'm here to be a parody of myself.
We've also got Megaphonic's own resident angel from a Part of Our Heritage, it's Sarah Chamberlain.
I'm here to take your pick.
Coming for reals. And finally, he's going to gobble up all the power pellets from This Is Your Mixtape. It's Michael Collins.
Hi. I enjoy tones that are organized.
And hey, I want to play too, but fine. I'll take my turn last and let everyone else take all the cool games. And of course, if you're watching this live and you want to comment on any of our panelists' picks, please do. We'll try to incorporate them. We'll try to incorporate your comments into the show. That's literally why we do these things live. That and to get the fun mistakes like the one that I just made. Okay, this unskippable cutscene is finally over. Melissa, you now have control of the player character. What game are you going to play first?
Pressure.
Well, I'm pretty sure I'm going to start out with Dragon Age Origins, which is a soundtrack by Enon Zur, who does objectively the best soundtracks to all video games. When in the like 2000s, I had a big gap in time in which I didn't get to play a lot of video games. A combination of being back in university, not having the money for a good gaming system, not having money for a bad gaming system, not having money for any gaming system. So the first RPG that I picked up after about like 5 or 6 years was Dragon Age Origins. And from the minute I turned it on and heard the first like opening bars of the intro music, I immediately got goosebumps and like tears welled up in my eyes. And I got so into that game. Now it's a soundtrack that I listen to on road trips. We regularly play it when we play Dungeons and Dragons, like in person with friends. And I have so many good emotions tied up in that video game. And I have absolutely nothing intelligent to say about the music itself, except to talk about how I have feelings towards it.
And what are those feelings? They're
very confusing and emotional feelings, and sometimes sad and also happy, and horror a little bit, I guess, but mostly good.
Excellent. Does it make you feel like a dragon or like you could defeat a dragon?
It makes me feel like I could defeat a dragon.
Okay.
Yeah. And then maybe hook up with like a handsome elf or something.
Life goals. Life goals.
Absolutely.
Although you could
does
also hook up with the dragon.
Yeah.
You could also hook up with a dragon.
Is an elf?
As our recent D&D campaign suggested. Where I was playing a centaur who is desperately trying to hook up with some dragons.
Now, is an elf I'd like to fuck an ilf? Is that?
It's just an elf.
It's E silent. No.
Tolkien has taught me anything. All elves are elves you like to fuck.
No. Even Tom Bombadil?
He's not an elf.
He's not an elf.
He's not an elf.
Oh, okay.
What about Danny Elfman?
All right.
Yes.
Does anybody have anything else to say about Dragon Age Origins?
I think it's a fantastic pick.
Excellent.
Yeah,
It was a great way to start us out. Javier, what are you going to play?
Okay, so I think I'm ready to snipe every one of you because I have Journey and on my list, and you might be getting mad about me, and I'm going to tell you I didn't have a PlayStation, so I just played it like months ago. So use that when you're thinking about hating me or not. Take your pick. I don't know. You might be mad with me because I'm not a true fan, or maybe just you're going to pity myself because I'm not someone that played the game on the original time. Anyway, I think the music of the game is excellent because it has the amazing leitmotif of the violins and the strings dragging on like they don't want to play, but they keep playing because that's just life, man. And the game, that's what the game is about. The music is just constantly building up and building down, but it always tells the story of life, the story of the rise and the fall, the hero, the journey. It's all in the music, and I can't believe that they did that. And it makes you feel marveled at all the beautiful things you encounter, and scared at all the bad things along the way, and tired because the journey is so long. I can't believe that with the same leitmotif they were able to create such an all-encompassing music.
Very good, Journey. I also didn't get a chance to play this, and it came out on the for iOS recently, and I got it, and then I found the controls terrible, and then I meant to get a whatchamacallit, a little proper controller on, and then I got lazy, and then life got busy. But definitely the crowd approved.
Hell yeah, to Journey. Oh.
I don't begrudge you this because I just wrote down "duh" next to Journey when I made my short.
Oh yeah.
So I'm glad someone said it.
That one comes pre-lauded. I mean, the soundtrack was nominated for a Grammy, which was one of the very first video game soundtracks to be nominated for a Grammy. It's beautiful, absolutely gorgeous. Good choice. You monster! You stole it from us.
Wow, I have not heard a song from that game.
It sounds nothing like the rest of Journey's albums.
Now, some of that I've heard.
Yeah, the celloist in Journey on the Journey soundtrack, Tina Guo, she plays just super low on the neck and does these amazing high notes on the cello that are transcendent. So good job.
All right, fantastic. Excellent pick. And yeah, it looks like the crowd is very sad that they don't get to pick Journey or ever play it again, including me. I guess I'll never get to play it. Pete, what are you going to take away from the rest of us?
Well, since we're in a snipey mood, I'm going to go with the soundtrack from Super Mario World by Koji Kondo.
Yay!
Yeah. When I was a kid, when the game came out, it was the first introduction that I had to a leitmotif before I understood what a leitmotif was. I just remember thinking as a kid, wow, a lot of the melodies in this game are the same, but they're just slight variations, variation in theme. And it was so much fun, such a great idea, and really kind of flexes what Kondo could do with a theme, what Kondo could do with an idea. And you make it spooky for the ghosts, you make it kind of funky for underground. It was just wonderful. It's one of my favorite pieces. That's my smartest thing I can say about it. I love it.
You did good.
I remember playing that game for the first time, and it was the first time that I had seen like not 3D, but like what's the word I'm looking for?
Parallax, where you have the background.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I remember it absolutely blowing my mind as a kid.
Yeah.
Especially coming from like Super Mario Brothers. Like, yeah, it completely blew my mind, and so I still like that music is always running in my background in my head.
And you know, when you think about a soundtrack for a video game, you also have to think, especially for the consoles from the 80s and 90s, you have to think about them in terms of the hardware. And the sound chip on the original Nintendo was excellent. The sound chip on the Super Nintendo was doubly excellent. It could do sampled instruments, and so you would get things like the ridiculous orchestra hits that, you know, permeated music everywhere in the 90s, which we all love. But to have it be this full, rich stereo sound with all these new instruments that you hadn't heard before, it going from Super Mario Brothers 3, which also had an excellent soundtrack, to Super Mario World, it was just a whole new experience. It was wonderful. I loved
You know, my husband only just realized the other day that when you get on Yoshi, you hear like little drums
the
going.
bongos.
Yeah, and he's 40 years old, and he only just realized that. Did you not
that's
play
a good
this?
thing.
It is a good thing. Yeah.
Noticing something new. That's the goal. You know, as a composer, you always want to find a new piece. You want the listener to be like, oh yeah, I didn't notice that until now, which is great. Sometimes it takes 20 years. 30 years. Oh God, I'm old. All right.
I am curious to see if other early Mario games will make it on anybody's list now that Super Mario World is there. But we also have a comment from somebody who asks if anybody doesn't have Journey on their list, which, I mean, I admit I didn't.
Yeah,
but
I
that's,
never played it.
No,
Yeah,
I didn't. I've never
not
played it
aware.
either.
we've separated the true gamers from the fake ones.
It's one of those game soundtracks where even people who don't play games will be like, yeah, I listen to this in the background when I'm working. It's so beautiful.
Right.
So do look it up.
The art style is certainly beautiful. That much I know from what I've encountered.
There's just too many games.
There are
That's true.
kind of a lot. I mean, anybody who plunked down for that itch.io charity, you know,
Oh my
pay
God.
$10 and get 750 games, which totally did. But like, am I ever going to play any of them? Maybe two I'll get to play in my life. All right. That was Super Mario World. Fantastic choice, of course. Now we go over to Adam. Adam, what do you want to turn on to the console?
Well, you know, I'm surprised this hasn't been picked already, but I chose a little blue guy who likes to run fast and often causes havoc for mad scientists. I'm speaking, of course, of Mega Man. And specifically Mega Man 2, which is the ballinest soundtrack ever. I think that Nintendo's real strength, as we were talking earlier about the strengths of the sound chips of the system, what Nintendo did really well was basically synth J-pop. And basically Mega Man 2 is like the perfect workout mix. It is the most exciting thing. It is impossible to sit still as you are listening to the stage music for Cialis spokesman Woodman, or indeed Dr. Wily Stage 1. Like it's so ballin' that one of the stages, I believe it's for Crash Man, the theme music was ripped off whole heart for a Canadian kid show called Video and Arcade Top 10. They just stole the music. And I think that Mega Man 2 separates the Mega Man from the Mega Boys, and I think that's the finest soundtrack in all of Mega Mandom.
Well, we found our Mega Maniac.
Yeah, exactly.
You really faked it out there.
I don't think the Sonic series is known for having good music, especially the early ones. I can't imagine they'll make an appearance later.
They are, though. I mean, I don't want to scoop anyone. I'll leave this for later, but
Yes. No, I was kidding, of course. But yeah, no, Mega Man. The Mega Mans.
I never played the Video and Arcade Top 10 song in my head next to the Crash Man song in my head. My mind is blown. They are exactly the same.
They're identical.
Yes.
Damn you, Nicholas Pickles.
What an amazing soundtrack. I fucking love the Mega Mans. Mega Man.
I have to admit, I've never listened to a Mega Man soundtrack, but there's a band called the Proto Men that did the Mega Man rock opera.
Oh my god,
it slaps ass. It is so good. So I love, and they kind of incorporate some of those elements, and I love them.
Yeah, so made all the more relevant now because they were very influenced, particularly in the second album, by the late Ennio Morricone. And like, oh my god, mixing that with the storyline of Mega Man and Proto Man, like, it's a genius choice.
It is.
All right. And also, yes, I love the music. I love that the music in the opening cutscene of Mega Man 2 starts with the end credits music of Mega Man 1. It's gloriously meta.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's a very clever thing. I just looked this up, and so now I have to load it. So give me just 1 second of faffing about while I pull up a promo photo for. That's okay. For the Mega Man music, the rock opera.
I thought you were going to use the American or European box art for Mega Man 2, which is notorious.
Oh, so great! No, come on.
Like, I love the European art in particular because it's just a silver guy who looks like he has a dildo for a hand. Like he has a Hitachi magic wand.
Chris, if you're not looking this up, I'm looking it up right now.
It's European kind of amazing. Art for Mega Man 2. I've seen one of the Mega Man arts.
Well, he has like gum.
Oh my god!
Wait, are we allowed?
Yeah, he's like all silver or white, and he's got that big mixing hand. Hand. It's terrible.
I don't know if this is the one you're. There's several that are up here. Oh no! Oh, I know which one you mean.
Yeah. Look for the one that's most dildo-y.
Oh, no. The silver one. Yes. All right, hold on 1 second. Pat her, everybody. Pat her while I load this.
You're like a little kid at a candy store right now.
I just love inflicting this on people.
Oh no.
This is not the way we expected to get demonetized.
Adam, this better not awaken something in me.
I think it will.
Are we live streaming on Pornhub?
For sure.
Oh,
oh my god!
What? Bless.
The best part is that Mega Man's expression is, "Tell me about the rabbits again."
Either that or he looks like somebody he's charging his phone on the other side of the room and somebody just picked up his phone. He's like, hey.
Hey. The best part is the little chubby dragon. That's so cool.
Which is in the game.
I like the frowny cat over his shoulder. That's very strange.
That was a highlight for me.
So much is happening.
I feel like this is the time when I'm supposed to say like, follow, subscribe if you enjoy this level of content.
European Mega Man is
so much good stuff. All right, we have to move on. Alas,
Amazing.
Simone, bring us back to reality. What game are you going to offer for us?
All right, so I am going to take this before anyone else can. And be a stereotype of myself. It is Assassin's Creed 2, and I have very, very good reasons. So Assassin's Creed is, of course, a series that is both historical and also science fiction, and then it's almost bringing in fantasy elements at the moment, but maybe they're just science fiction elements. And so the Assassin's Creed 2 soundtrack by Jesper Kyd melds those together in such a beautiful way. The game takes place in Italy during the Renaissance, and so you have like these beautiful choruses and just natural instruments. But then in some songs, like Earth, which is my favorite one off the soundtrack, he brings in this like distortion and these synthetic sounds and blends those two things together so beautifully, and it just creates this like great tone, this texture of music that is incredible. And also it is the first Assassin's Creed soundtrack that has the song Family on it, and Family is obviously like the big theme of Assassin's Creed, and Family is then in all the subsequent soundtracks, and it's that melody that you probably, if you've played Assassin's Creed, and you probably associate it with that like da da. Oh wow, I can't sing. I don't know notes. You know. And so he composed that, and then now subsequent composers doing Assassin's Creed soundtracks all get to do their take on family, like family in 19th century London, family in Greece, family in et cetera, and it's so cool to hear the different variations of that, but that all comes from Assassin's Creed 2. which is a game that rocks. That's my spiel.
Fantastic.
That is a great choice.
Well, I'm sold.
I have
No,
I
yeah,
have a
it's
Jesper
fantastic.
Kid on my list as well, but it's not that one.
So
Oh.
my
Stuff,
poor
man.
husband was playing Assassin's Creed 2. I actually have not played it, but I have watched him play it extensively, and I kept him up every night, sometimes till 1, 2 in the morning. Like, no, you got to keep playing this because I want to listen. I just want to listen. I just want the soundtrack. Just keep playing. And he's like, I'm so tired. I don't want to be in the Renaissance anymore. I'm like, no. We're not done. You're not. Okay, now you.
Let me introduce you to a concept called Spotify.
This was before Spotify. This was before that existed. So,
Oh, no.
like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Whoa! There was a time when you could only get the game soundtrack from playing the game.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Oh,
Sometimes you
no.
could have-
Sometimes buying it.
I'd put it on the Victrola. That was how I did it.
They've released a wax cylinder.
That's a
It still
nightmare.
irritates me when there's a game where you can't easily get
Mhm.
the soundtrack. And I'm thinking of a major release from a few years ago in particular that was almost certainly going to be on somebody's list, so I won't say anything more. But I did find it eventually in like this very specific Japanese release that I had to find off the back of a cart, so to speak. But yes, Assassin's Creed 2, excellent choice. Another game that I started and couldn't finish because of technical reasons. But oh well, that's just my problem. Sarah, you are up. What game will you be sharing with us?
All right, I'm going to go right with one of my all-time favorite games ever, and from my favorite series ever, Silent Hill 2. And that's a game by Konami, and the composer is Akira Yamaoka, who composed the music for pretty much every Silent Hill game other than 2 as well. It's this great, like, it's rock music. It's super melancholic. It's got like all dark ambience and industrial sounds that really make it just work in this really gritty, industrialized other world of the game. And all like the sound just fits so perfectly with the settings, and all of the character themes are so powerful, and they have such a strong narrative to them. And the songs like add to the fear or the sadness of the moments. And hearing the songs, you know, more than a decade later, you can still like picture the scenes that they're in. They're so powerful. He's just brilliant. Like a lot of his inspiration, he says, comes from like, if you haven't heard Silent Hill music, it comes from like Trent Reznor and Depeche Mode and stuff like that. So it's that kind of sound. And I love like that Akira Yamaoka. He's just such a great composer, and I can totally relate to him. He says, you know, what I'm always trying to say about horror, which is when people ask him how he can come out with such dark, melancholic sound, he's like, well, I'm usually really happy, and to be able to tap into the dark side of things, he's like, I think you need to be in a really happy place, and then you can really feel like that darkness when you're like trying to get into it. And yeah, it's really good.
You've
Excellent.
sold me completely.
Have you
Yeah.
played Silent Hills?
No, I
before?
haven't.
Anyone? No? Oh my gosh, I was like so
No, I'm a
scared
scaredy
someone
cat.
was gonna take this music.
And the
do
music
like the
actually
show.
contributes a lot to how
really-
scary the game is.
Yeah,
It's very well used.
it's so well used, and like a lot of the music just has like the actual sound effects in it, and like it all just blends together so nicely.
I always remember friends playing it with headphones on to just scare the bejesus out of themselves because it's a really immersive experience, and then you're just playing. I mean, and it's a scary game, you know. Not for you, huh, Chris?
Do not want. Do not want.
You've got to be in the right headspace, a pyramid headspace.
Oh,
Hey-o.
Your head
The
gets in the
first-
pyramid, you're good to go.
The first thing I do when I'm watching or playing something scary and I think I'm going to get the crap scared out of me is turn off the sound. So I don't.
No.
No.
how dare you!
Especially with Silent Hill, it's like you're just absorbing the art. If you take the sound away, you may as well not.
Yeah.
Here. There's an amazing
No, what you need to do-
recording of
what-
the composer.
Yeah,
What you need to
Yeah.
do is put the headphones on, turn off the lights, and just go for it. Just dive right in.
Or
if
Scary
you-
games.
away.
If the game is too scary for you, I would still recommend. It's like the kind of music you can just like create to. Like if you draw or you write or anything, just put that music on in the background. It's so inspiring.
All right. Fantastic. Okay, well, that was Spooky Hill 2, and that is Sarah's first choice. Very on brand. We love it. We love to see it. Sarah, of course, Sarah with Adam, host of CanCon Scary Movie Podcast, a part of our Scaritage. Totally worth checking out. Mikey, you've done a whole episode on it. Mikey, it is your turn.
The turn of me.
And what are you going to have us play?
Well, this will come as no surprise to anyone who knows me well. I am going to pick Chrono Trigger.
Nice.
When I was 12, we got one Super Nintendo game per Christmas, myself and my brother. So 2. I got one, he got one. And that was it. That was our game acquisition for the year. So I'd asked for Chrono Trigger. And this is unrelated, I spent 2 weeks in hospital over Christmas that year. So I was like, I don't know. It just hit at the right moment. I started reading, please don't laugh, The Wheel of Time that year as well. And there was just something in my life being sort of a 12-year-old boy that just was searching for magic and escape, but also like a richness and texture to the fantasy world. And Chrono Trigger had it. And the music was a huge part of establishing that. Like, music sets the emotional tone, like in film, but also in games. And this music is so evocative of so many different aesthetics, so many different feelings. The game itself heavily features time traveling, so you have sort of a wasted dystopian future where humanity is barely hanging on by its fingernails. You have like a cartoonish, like Flintstone style, like past where like it's all like drums and blah blah blah. And you have like medieval times. You have some sort of Atlantis style, like magical society was just the best music is from the Kingdom of Zeal. I'm sorry, and it's just wonderful. Like, it's magical, it's transporting, the melodies are so strong. Like, I have given so much of my bandwidth over the years to Overclocked Remix, and I think that songs that can be transformed into different forms and be enjoyed. So you can have a symphonic performance of music from Chrono Trigger, you can have like a dubstep remix of the Ocean Palace theme, and the songs just slap regardless of what clothes you put them in. I just love it. It was composed by Yasunori Mitsuda, and he was like reading about like the composition work. This was like his chance to sort of make a name for himself. He slept in the office. Like, he had a hard drive failure and he lost 40 tracks, like, and he had to sort of redo them very quickly. He ended up giving himself ulcers. He cried when it was finished, and it's just, I don't know. There's so much in this. It's just so rich. Like, Chrono Trigger really pushed the 16-bit role-playing game to sort of its limits of complexity and richness, and the music really holds it up.
You did research.
I read a Wikipedia article.
For shame.
About this a couple of years ago.
It's like you're some kind of academic.
Or slumming ex-academic. Yeah. You've at least made one audience member very excited.
Yes. Oh my god. I was listening to selections from Chrono Trigger this morning, like amping up for this. So I'm so glad no one sniped it. Thank you for letting me talk about it.
Very good. All right.
Yeah.
High praise from Booty McButtbutt.
Please accept it.
Yep, it's all true.
You are valid.
All right. Well, I guess that means it's my turn, which is always the most tricky part as I try to do 400 things at once. But I'm not going to say too much about my choice, except that it got remastered recently, and I literally it was just for the music. I mean, the game is cool too, but come on. Yeah, oh my word. Katamari Damacy. It's so good. The soundtrack is so delightful. Like, you don't even need to buy the soundtrack. You just want to have a console playing in the background the whole time. Oh, it's so happy. It's so good. It's so peppy. Yu Miyake is the name of the composer. Might as well throw that out there. I don't have a lot of smart things to say, just that this is some of the catchiest music ever made. In one of the most, bright, sunshiny, delightful video games. It's a perfect marriage of the two. I need to get back to replaying it because I want to get these songs stuck in my head once again.
It is truly delightful.
We've got a lot of good stuff on this list already.
Already. And that was just round 1. Round 2, where the points are doubled. All right, let us go back to the beginning, unless anybody else has something to say about Katamari, but I don't think you can say anything other than it's real good. It's real good.
And don't play it if you have it on handheld. Don't play it in the car because you will get sick. This is the most motion game.
That goes for all of our picks. You will get sick.
I borrowed
Crash your car.
I borrowed my friend's, was it a PlayStation game? I forget because I didn't have the console, but I borrowed their PlayStation. And as you may know, you use the 2 sticks to circle around, and I wore the pads out of the sticks playing the game because I guess I was just so hard and intense, and I felt really bad giving them back, and I was super poor at the time, and I was like, I guess I'll try to make the money to get it. He's like, don't worry, they were super old, it's fine.
If you really liked it.
All right, we're going to go back for round 2. We're going to go to Melissa. Melissa, you started off with Dragon Age Origins. What is your second pick?
All right, my second pick is The Sims 3. And I guess also you can lump The Sims 4 into this. Now, I'm not picking this so much because of the actual soundtrack as the radio songs. Because the radio stations in this game, specifically in Sims 3, actually take real live music from actual real living world artists and translate it into the gibberish language of the game called Simlish. And then they actually get the artists to record the songs in this gibberish language, and then they play on the radio in the game. And let me tell you, there is literally nothing funnier in the world than Soulja Boy's Speakers Going Hammer sung in total gibberish. It is the funniest thing I have ever heard, and the soundtrack, I make my Sims play the radio all the time. For anyone who hasn't played The Sims, it's basically like a building and interior decorating game, which is with a side thing about actually like managing life, but mostly it's just like an interior decorating game, and that's what I play it for. And then occasionally I make my Sims actually like live in the houses I build, and when they do, I make them play the radio 24/7 so I can just hear these ridiculous Simlish songs. They're so great. They're so great. And for a while, occasionally I would hear a song, like a new DLC would come out or something, and I would buy it. And I would hear a song on there that I'd never heard before. And then I would try to look up that song, except you can't if you don't know the lyrics of the song. And so I try to look up like a song that sounds like Duba Boogaga Gagawagaji. It's amazing. It's really, really good stuff.
That is fantastic.
Very relatable.
That is such a good suggestion.
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't know that, or I didn't remember that about The Sims 3. Now I need to check that out again.
Yeah. And
no
The Sims 4 has a bunch of original radio songs that are like original to the game, like they're not actually by like known artists, which is kind of a shame because like some of the songs really slap, like they're really good, and I want to just get a full-length song of them to listen to. But yeah, the Katy Perry one is hysterical. It's so good.
Oh, excellent choice.
Yeah.
Excellent.
And then sort of to make this longer than it needs to be, but the actual soundtrack for the game, which is really weird, like the theme music, for some reason I also hear it in like reality TV shows. I don't know if it's like so if you've ever watched the Great Canadian Baking Show or the Great British Bake Off, the theme music from it is from The Sims.
What?
So yeah, so I
love that.
Maybe I'm nuts and I'm just conflating the two, but I don't know if it's something like the rights for it or like it's like some I don't understand how that works. But listen to it and then listen to like some of the Sims 3 sound and you'll be like, what is happening here? I don't know why. If somebody can answer that for me, I'd be delighted.
I definitely want Paul Hollywood to be speaking in the That absolutely sounds fantastic.
And it's not just from that too. Like I've also seen it in other TV things, like sort of some lower budget like TV things. I've seen that music in, and I don't know why. I don't know why. If somebody in broadcast can explain.
Maybe it's
so
like
weird.
Producers playing house with the contestants.
Yeah.
Dystopian.
Fantastic. All right. Well, that is great. Javier, you gave us Journey. What else are you going to take away from everybody?
This might fly under some of us radars. I got Untitled Goose Game.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
I should have built in a wait for for applause. So it's this classic Steve Jobs intersection of arts and technology. It's a full classical musical score, but chopped up the right way so that the engine, the music in the game's music engine can play the right beats at the right time and enhance the comedic effect of the game. And there's something about the hijinks of the Goose and the slapstick comedy combined with the highbrow kind of music that just makes it so delightful. And it's I don't know, I can't believe that someone actually made this and it works so well. And for what I've heard about how they implemented it, wasn't even that particularly hard. But congrats to both the developer that was able to parse music in a way that allows him to do such crazy things, and to the composer that created something that allowed the developer to work that way. Amazing.
Yeah,
It is a really fantastic soundtrack and a delightful game.
it really does underline the comedic moments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm very sorry. That was me slamming my microphone into my laptop while you were talking. I tried to move my chair, and it was not a good idea.
Oh, chaos.
I am a
Very good. All right, Untitled Goose Game. I can't believe I didn't think about that one. That was really good. Oh wait,
dangerous.
the honks are in tune with the with the music. Who is up next? Let me see. We've got Pete up next. You gave us Super Mario World last time. What'll it be this time?
This time, it's going to be the soundtrack from Rayman Origins by Christopher Rawl. Now, that's a very good one. If you haven't played the game, highly recommended. I think it actually came out on the Wii, possibly the Wii U first. But here's the thing. The soundtrack, it blends the goofy and the grand. Portion
Uh-oh.
No.
Technical difficulties.
His final words: the goofy and the grand.
of the sound. Can you guys hear me now?
You're
Yes.
back.
Okay. Goofy and the Grand. So a substantial portion of the game is lush orchestral, big, beautiful music. And then just as much of the game is kazoos and whistling and ukulele. And it works together. It's so good. It's a cross-genre soundtrack. There, you'll hear stuff that sounds like it's from a tiki bar. You'll hear stuff that it sounds like it's from a spy movie. You hear stuff that sounds perfectly in place in a symphony hall. But it is so much fun, and it really plays very well to the goofiness of the game. If nobody else is, I'm hoping I'm not sniping anybody else. If nobody else has also looked at Rayman Legends, which was the sequel. Oh, very fun. Best use of Eye of the Tiger I've ever seen. Very, very good. Just a favorite. Absolutely a favorite.
All right,
Play fun
fantastic. Hold on. The computer's freaking out as well. Okay. There we are. I haven't played this game, no.
Oh, you should. Play it for the soundtrack, if only. It's a fun platformer. It's not the hardest thing in the world. I mean, I don't think you'll lose any hair over playing this one. It's just a lot of fun. Very, very
so
worth
bad at platforming.
Oh, it's fine.
I'm just the worst. Okay, great. God, I spent a lot of time trying to check on something that was perfectly fine. I'm sorry. I'm flailing at my job here. Megaphonic FM, the Goofy and the Grand. Very good. Very good. All right.
That's the subtitle of one of the Kingdom Hearts sequels, actually.
No.
We're waiting for a few more goofy voices to break out there. Adam, you gave us Mega Man 2. What is our next hit from you?
You have no idea how many fake outs I have about a little blue guy who loves to run fast. But I'm going to embrace it this time. Let's talk Sonic the Hedgehog, and boy, is it hard to pick one. Even as the series has had its ups and downs, the Sonic soundtracks are always ballers. And it's really tough between the first two games, but I have to choose, as they were both done by Masato Nakamura. I think I'm saying that right. I hope. But I've got to go with Sonic the Hedgehog 2. And the reason for that is I don't think there is a more exciting couple of tunes than Chemical Plant Zone or Metropolis Zone, both of which are just like, again, it's impossible to sit still, but you've also got a greater mix in Sonic 2 of slower themes and kind of grander, more epic themes, including the downright terrifying Death Egg theme, which you only hear for about 30 seconds, but goes on for 2.5 minutes. Again, great variety, lots of upbeat tracks, and totally reflects how the Sega Genesis, rather than kind of like the 80s J-pop of the Nintendo, embraced 90s kind of dance music.
Excellent.
Yep, totally. I only ever played one Sonic game. It was the one for Dreamcast.
Oh.
And it was like, there was this one level, I've never been able to find the song, but you would run around, you'd go up on this big mountain and kind of look out over everything in that level. And there was this like super like soulful kind of like 80s song that would play. I used to just leave it on that screen for like 3 hours while I was doing other stuff.
I mean, I used to leave Sonic levels on for 3 hours while I was desperately trying to win at playing, as I am not good at this, and therefore I don't know the music for the latter stages of either Sonic 1 or 2, despite playing the heck out of them as a kid. And I think there's whatever is the level that I could not get past is the music that's most in my head for those Sonic games. So,
Green Hill Zone. Marble Zone.
I think so.
So that you sniped me, and so I'm going to put a hit out on you for that. But have you ever seen any of the work about the connection for Michael Jackson to that soundtrack?
Well, it's for Sonic 3. That's where they got Brad Buxer. Because the bassist for a J-pop band called Dreams Come True did Sonic 1 and 2, and then they never brought him back, sadly.
And actually, you can hear the work of the bassist in the Sonic 2 soundtrack. I mean, the bass lines and that was actually what I was going to bring up. I mean, if the Super Mario soundtrack was something respectable that you could show to your parents, the Sonic soundtrack was the thing that like the naughty kids would have. You know what I mean? Like it had the funk. It was a lot of it.
Well, how often myself and my other schoolyard chums would go behind the alley and listen to Sonic.
Smoke Edie's and listen to Sonic the Hedgehog. Like
he's always been the edgy one.
Yeah.
One thing this is teaching me is that the second installment of a lot of games has great music. We've had like 4 second installments already.
I'm always a proponent that the second installment is usually the best in the series.
Thank you, Booty McButtbutt, for following. We were doing this on a slightly different platform, so I heard the sound and I was like, wait, what is that sound again? Oh, right. It's the sound that makes when someone follows, but I don't think it came through here. And just going back to a previous pick, Rayman Origins featuring full orchestra with solo mouth harp, which is a lovely sound.
Twangy and wonderful.
Yeah. Sonic the Hedgehog 2, fantastic choice. Okay, let me find my notes quickly. And Simone, it's your turn. You gave us Assassin's Creed 2. What is going to be your next sequel to give us?
Now that, wow, you can really just see the whole, okay. Now that I've gotten Assassin's Creed 2 out of the way and I'm a little more relaxed, I'm going to go with one of my deep cuts. And that is Tearaway from Media Molecule. So Tearaway came out for the PS Vita first, and then later was released on PlayStation 4, thank God. It is a strange game that it's a platformer, and it looks like it was made out of paper. Like that's its whole aesthetic, is that you are a little paper person and everything is kind of just this folded papercraft world. And the studio that made it is English, and there's the whole aesthetic is this sort of folksy, like English country mysticism, almost like this spooky, not spooky because it's all freaking adorable. Anyway, kind of folklore. And so the soundtrack is a lot of like pipes and horns and strings, and it just really captures this kind of countryside, old English aesthetic in a game that is quite literally perfect. Even though maybe I'm the only person who thinks so. What did I write down? I wrote down county fair, pipes, strings, horns. So I did get all my notes in. I just think it's a really underrated game, and it's also a really beautifully atmospheric soundtrack. And if I were to recommend one song off it, it would be Gibbet Hill or Pilgrimage, which takes place in this level where you find this big mountain. And when I got to this level, because I had played Journey, I was like, oh no, this is going to be the end of the game. I got to the big mountain. Now I'm going to climb the big mountain and it's going to be over. But it turns out it's just like the end of the first third of the game. But your tiny little paper person, you're guiding them in circles up this huge mountain. And it's just a beautiful song that carries you forward towards the sun, which if you play it on PS Vita, because of the front-facing camera, your face was in the sun. It was the cool of the world, and your face was looking down, so you'd be in bed and you'd be like, "Oh God, that's me."
That's fantastic. I don't know this game at all.
Wow.
It's so. I definitely recommend playing it on PS4. I think the Vita version is very special, but also no one has a PS Vita, and they made some changes to the PS4 version that I think make the story stronger. It's gorgeous. I was bawling at the end because it's very much like you are not the little paper person, you are helping them. So in the Vita version, like because of the touch screen or the touch screen on the back, your fingers would be like pushing up through the paper into the world and moving things around. And it's just like, ugh.
That sounds really neat.
Very
Take care of your little guy. Anyway, yes, Claire. Hi, welcome, Claire.
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
This game, and I've never seen it before.
I really like the idea of having my face in the sun, like some kind of really great Teletubbies moment.
Yeah.
If you have a PS Vita or can find one, like it's the. Sorry, stop me if it's time for me to stop talking. However. For Sony, like consoles, Media Molecule has often been the studio that has made the sort of like tech demo game for that platform. So for PS Vita, it was like, we have a touchpad on the back and we have a touch screen and all these things. Go ahead and make a game that takes advantage of all of these pieces, camera, touchpad, blah, blah, blah. And then I think like for, did they do that for PS4 as well? I feel like they did.
The controller has a touchpad on the PS4.
Yeah, and they use that in Tearaway for PS4 as well. So it rules.
Yeah. Fantastic. Well, I'm very excited to learn about this game. Let us see. Okay, Sarah, you had Silent Hill #2. What little slice of spooky are you going to give us now?
Well, yeah, I'm going to go from gritty realism of Silent Hill 2 to the gritty, fantastical realm of Banjo-Kazooie. Which is in like one of the best platformer games I've ever played or adventure games I've ever played in my entire life. I'm still so salty about the fact that Rare, like, which is the company that made it, went under. And I mean, they made Banjo-Tooie and then another Banjo game that we will not speak of. And that's, but Banjo-Kazooie is so good. The composer is Grant Kirkhope, who did a lot of like older Nintendo stuff that I'm surprised hasn't come up yet, like stuff like 007 and that people seem to love. It's so whimsical and full of life. It's every single level, because there's like several very distinct levels in Banjo-Kazooie. Every single level has a very, very distinct song. Like, for example, my favorite one is Mad Monster Mansion, which is just a level that's an entirely giant haunted house. And like in the music, there's all these sound effects used. Like you can hear wolves howling and like frogs croaking. And all of the instruments used in that one are like organ and theremin and xylophone to make all the little creepy sounds. And then you'll go to a different place, a different world, and it still keeps like the ongoing Banjo-Kazooie theme, like the style of the music, but it will be completely different. It's its own song that stands on its own. They're all so memorable. If you've played that game and you even hear 2 notes from one of the songs, you'll know immediately what it's from. And yeah, like the sound effects, everything, they're so good that I think that it's the kind of music that I would just play and people would like it, not even knowing what it's coming from.
Fantastic.
Grant Kirkhope is a great composer. He's really very good. prolific.
He hasn't done near enough stuff. Like
Not
I was
lately.
looking him up recently, and I was
Not
like,
more.
oh my god.
He should work harder.
Well, he did so much for Rare, and then they went under, so it was just kind of like, I think, freelancing after that. But
I think that's also another one of the games where the sequel is even better than the original. Like, I love Banjo-Tooie. I liked it even better than the original.
I love Banjo-Tooie, but I don't remember it as well as the original. Like, the first one was so, like, I think I spent like 300 hours of my childhood playing that game.
All right. Very good. Excellent. All right. Banjo-Kazooie and Banjo-Tooie. Michael, you started us off with Chrono Trigger.
Yeah.
What are you going to do for number 2?
All right, number 2. I'm going to keep the sequel train rolling. I'm going to pick Donkey Kong Country 2. I love this game. Okay, so context. I grew up in Newfoundland in a small town that had like nothing around it. And this is going to sound very silly, but the music in this game struck, what was I, like 12 or 13? It struck me as being very chic. I mean, like, you have like, I'm thinking about the music in the giant beehive levels, which has this like very fast ostinato synth and these big gated drums, or like the roller coaster disco music, or like the Bramble Blast, Stickerbush Symphony, which is just basically trip hop. It felt very mid-late 90s, very cool. Like, I didn't necessarily have an older sibling who went to an arts college, but if I did, it's like this is the music they would listen to in my little 13-year-old life. It felt like having a cool older sibling who was introducing me to like Portishead and like Kate Bush and like, it just has such style, and I just love it so much. The mining levels with the sort of humming chorus. I would when the song cycled through to that point, I would pause the action and just sit there and wait and have it go through that little bridge and just like have like chills. And then when it was over, I'd pick up the controller and resume. There's just so many. They really took advantage of the sound capabilities of the Super Nintendo. Like the samples in this, the buzzing beehives, the hammer strikes in the mines, which are all built in as percussive or melodic elements. Just genius. This totally stands up today. I listen to it still. The end.
Awesome. Yeah, listen to it still. While I was looking for these today, like, you know, looking up stuff today, I listened to that entire soundtrack in the background. I was like, so it's definitely on my list. Yeah.
We got back-to-back Rare.
Yeah, exactly.
Not to mention Donkey Kong Country 2 is the best of the Donkey Kong countries because you get to play as Dixie Kong.
Dixie Kong with her mortal hair abilities.
Yeah.
No, I wish my hair let me fly.
You just cut it off, Mikey. Yeah, Javier, does your hair help you fly? I wish. Oh, comes close, I'm sure. All right, that's a great choice. It's my turn again, so I'm going to be Mr. Obvious Pants, I guess, and pick something that somehow hasn't come up. Now, let me type it all in here so that it can come up on the Chiron. Breath of the Wild. There we go.
Yes.
Of course, it's going to have to be that because dang almighty, that is some good music. A lot of people have said a lot of things about the soundtrack to this. Some of them, especially right when it came out, very dumb. But the smart people who've said good things about how excellent the soundtrack is, there were a lot of haters. There were a lot of people like, Kakariko Village doesn't have the right theme song. First off, it turns out it is totally in there. But secondly, the new theme song is amazing. What are you talking about? All the music is amazing. This is so good. But what's really great about it is that this is the first Zelda game, or at least the first one that I can think of, that wasn't bombastic all the time. That was all about these very quiet moments. It perfectly reflected that spacious, empty world that you're wandering around in. It's such a daring choice to make something so spare, to make something so desolate for The Legend of Zelda, right? Which is like that's what you think you're going into. I don't know. It's just beautiful. This is also a game where I try to find the soundtrack on like the streaming platforms or elsewhere, and no. So I guess there was a 6 CD set that was released only in Japan that I managed to find the files for. But like, what? Come on! you go into Spotify, I have to listen to people covering it, which sometimes is a lot of fun, but not always what I want when I just want to listen to, you know, the Hyrule Castle theme and its lovely, complicated meter. Anyway, Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild. Manaka Kataoka, I believe, is the name of the composer or the main composer on it, who's also done some of the Animal Crossing stuff, but not the most recent game.
The main theme gives me chills every time I hear it.
I could go on about this soundtrack specifically for way too long. Way too long. But one of the things, you alluded to it, one of the things that you really become appreciative of as a composer is the absence of sound. You frequently, when you're writing music for a video game, they always want you to have music everywhere. It's always filling in everything you have. And I think it's because somewhere in the back of our mind, we all kind of want to be Koji Kondo doing Super Mario Brothers. And it's just, there's, you know, stuff going the entire time. And that's good for a lot of games. But for Breath of the Wild, when you're out in the field, when you're out in the prairie, and there's nothing, you'll have a little piano piece that'll kind of come in, doesn't have a solid melody, but it still has a little bit of a resolution to it. It's so good. It's so good. It's beautiful. And also the use of the piano for, you know, the little, you found a thing, you know, the whenever you open a chest, having that be heavily reverberated and it sounds like a ruin. I love it. I love it. It's so good.
I also love the way that there's the main melody comes in if you're riding your horse at night for a while.
Yeah.
And then it just slowly tinkles in. And it doesn't even play the whole thing. Like, it's such a tease, but it's such the sweetest reward. It's like that little drop that you can pull from a honeysuckle. And it's just a perfect little burst of sweetness. Such a delightful moment.
Yeah.
And there's so many great things in this soundtrack.
And then a guardian comes by and the piano starts going. You're like, oh, I am going to die. I'm going to die right now.
Absolutely can be terrifying.
Yeah, I hate when that music comes in when you don't even see the guardian yet. Like if you're in the middle of and you hear it and you immediately like crap your pants before you even see it.
I gotta shout out Tarrytown as well as the music pro.
Yes.
Yes. If you haven't watched Game Maker's Toolkit, I believe, did the video about the soundtrack for Tarrytown and how it builds up over the game, and it's a fantastic video. Most of the videos that I've seen about the soundtrack to Breath of the Wild, at least the ones that are complimentary, are brilliant, because there's so much that you can say about this. If you have anything to say about music or games, it's a rich feast of a soundtrack. All right. Well, we have time for a lightning round 3. So you'll still get to make a pick. You'll still get to talk about it, but we're going to keep it a bit snappy. So I hope you didn't save your favorite game ever for last. Melissa, we'll start with you. You've got Dragon Age Origins and The Sims 3, and what else?
The Red Dead Redemption 2 soundtrack. Oh, no. Oh, there I am. Sorry. I'm having technical difficulties. The soundtrack was produced by Daniel Lanois. It was composed by Woody Jackson, but it also has a whole bunch of different artists on it. Rockstar is phenomenal when it comes to integrating music with their gameplay. The soundtrack itself, I think, is absolutely perfect for this game. It's like Zelda. It's this massive, wide open game with long bits of silence in it. When the music does come in, it comes in at these incredible cinematic moments that just it's beyond being just a cutscene. Like they're so good. And there's also these long moments where there's no music going on at all, and you're riding your horse, and all of a sudden you hear Arthur singing to himself, sort of quietly and not very melodically, not very well. But it just punctuates that so beautifully. It's an absolutely phenomenal soundtrack, an absolutely phenomenal game. I listen to the soundtrack regularly.
Fantastic.
There's this like loading screen song that's so like slow and melancholic and beautiful that I just have playing all the time when I'm like writing and stuff. It's very nice.
There's also, towards the end of the game, there's this really cheerful, adorable song that plays when you're building a house, and there's an actual like house building simulator part. As you can tell, I love house building simulators. There's this part where you literally, the game is you have to put a piece of wood here, you have to put another piece of wood here, press A to put the wood down, but it comes after this long series of really sad events in the game, and then all of a sudden there's this cheery, happy moment, and it's just it's so good. It cleanses your palate to continue the rest of the game. Very good soundtrack.
Fantastic. All right, Javier, you gave us Journey and Untitled Goose Game. What is your third choice?
I got the previous game by Lucas Pope, the creator of Return of the Obra Dinn. I got Papers, Please. Which
yes.
A game in which you check the papers at the border of a fictional oppressive government, and the game only has basically one song, but it's so good that I still listen to it and still sing it to myself, and it's still an earworm, even though I haven't played the game since 2013. And it's the anthem of Astorska, which is the fictional country, and it has this very ominous bass and these twangy strings, and I swear to you, you can go listen to the song now, and you're gonna know what the game is about just by listening to it, because you can hear like the oppressive regime, you can hear the corruption, you can hear the pompousness of the people of Astorska. It's amazing, and I don't know how Lucas Pope keeps making this great game, so you should go listen.
You started saying that, and I was like, oh no, the only music I remember from that game is the anthem. I can't remember. I remember being really silent the rest of the time.
That's the music. Yeah.
But yes, you're right. No, the anthem is fantastic and completely memorable, and it is a terrific game. And he also did Obra Dinn, right?
Yes.
Yes. So I finally have a copy of that. Thank you, Steam sale. And I will get around to that as soon as this hectic weekend settles down a bit. Papers, Please. Excellent choice, Pete. You gave us Super Mario World and Rayman Origins. I was going to say Rayman Odyssey, which I think is a later sequel in it. What have you got for your third choice?
Super Mario Galaxy.
Yes.
Wonderful, wonderful soundtrack. This is one of those ones where it really showed how the hardware grew. You know, this was the problem that Nintendo always had, was they wanted to do orchestral pieces, but there was limitations to the software, limitations to the space of the hardware. And so with the Wii, they were able to have a fully orchestral, and not entirely, but you know, a fully orchestrated soundtrack that was integrated beautifully. You know, it's the soundtrack drove so much of the action and so many of the sound effects in the game. You remember, if you would go between the various planets in the galaxies, you'd have a little harp glissando, always in tune with whatever was going on in the soundtrack. Just the integration was amazing. The dynamic music was amazing. So very, very good. To this day, Gusty Garden Galaxy, I am reaching for that particular ring, and I haven't gotten it yet, but one of these days, it is. I'm chasing that dragon. It is so good. Favorite soundtrack.
Excellent choice. All right, Super Mario Galaxy, fantastic. Adam, you gave us Mega Man 2, Sonic the Hedgehog 2, and now for number 3.
My first non-sequel pick. This game, it doesn't have a sequel yet, but it is one of my favorite games of recent memory, and it's a great way to metaphorically deal with mental illness, and that game is Celeste. Which features a beautiful soundtrack by Lena Raine and a fantastic remix album, which features the likes of Crystal Lee on it. But yeah, the Celeste music is beautiful. Most of it is spare piano pieces. So it's like, hey, if you're looking to change up your writing / making art / relaxing music, please go with it. It's a great mixture of, like, you've got piano, you've got synths, you've got some choral bits in places. It's a terrific soundtrack for a game that I found, at least as someone who deals with manic depression, a game I found incredibly moving.
Very good. Celeste.
Soundtrack.
Wow.
It's a game that I found too hard of a platformer, even when I changed it to easy settings. And I got very sad because everybody loved the game. And I'm like, I can't get anywhere.
At least you can listen to the music.
Yeah, true. I could do
Steam
that.
sale.
Or just, watch a Let's Play by somebody who knows what they're doing. Fantastic. All right, Celeste. Simone, you gave us Assassin's Creed 2 and Tearaway. I keep wanting to almost say Tearaway, but no.
I did when I played it. I've been blurry, apparently. Okay, so since it is a lightning round, I am going to do a non-traditional pick and say Sea of Thieves. So in Sea of Thieves, which is a multiplayer pirate game, when you pull out an instrument, be it like a horn or an accordion or whatever, you start playing a song. And then if your friends also start playing on their instrument, they'll automatically play the same song. And
Nice.
you create your little band with your friends, and it is such a good feeling. And I love sea shanties. So those are two good things. Friends, sea shanties, multiplayer. Chef's kiss. Love it.
Fantastic. And making me paranoid. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. Making me paranoid that I spelled thieves wrong, as I always do. I always get I-E-E-I confused, even though I put out an album called Dishwasher Thief. It had a thief in it. I thought that would make me learn it, but no. Celeste is so hard, but if you can make it to the end, the music gets so triumphant, it feels like a reward.
It is, yeah.
It's probably true. I mean, I don't deserve rewards.
I also love sea shanties and making music with friends, so I need to look this up.
Oh yeah, I mean, I've seen some. Jared. I've definitely watched people playing it. It looks like it can be a lot of fun, So yeah,
it can be if you know what you want to get out of it. I'll say it can be a little aimless if you're just going in being like, "What do I do?" But it's a lot of fun with friends.
Yeah. All right, Sarah, you gave us Silent Hill 2 and Banjo-Kazooie. What is your third pick?
I am glad I get to mention my third pick, which is The Witcher 3 by CD Projekt Red.
Yes!
It is one of the best albums I've ever heard, not just video game. The music is unbelievable. The composer, I'm going to butcher his name. It's like Marcin Przybyłowicz or something. I think he's Polish. The performers, he wrote everything, but the performers are a Polish folk band called Percival, and a lot of them are, almost the entire band isn't classically trained. They're all self-taught. So he said it was a very unique experience working with them and having to just kind of feel the music, and you can really, really feel that in the soundtrack. It's so powerful. It's got so much grit and so much life to it. I don't think I have run one single D&D session since I played The Witcher 3 without playing some Witcher music in the background. It's so good. And yeah, fantastic. And I learned while looking into this after it came out, because it's such a fantastic soundtrack. It taught me what some instruments were. I had no idea hurdy-gurdy was an instrument. I always just thought it was a Donovan song. But there you have it.
As a former somebody who was working on a PhD in medieval studies, I would go to the big annual conference every year, and there would be somebody who would be playing a hurdy-gurdy and making them and selling them, which was always a treat.
I want one. I
love them. Yeah, after I tried my favorite.
They cost more than you'd want, but
I know
they're pretty cool.
You can buy kits to make your own, though. That sounds so fun.
Oh, yeah. Excellent. We got a quick note here about sea shanties from somebody who's watching. About how motivating they are. And it's also got Assassin's Creed. So there you go.
That is correct.
Okay, Michael, you gave us, let me take away that banner. Michael, you gave us Chrono Trigger and Donkey Kong Country 2. What is your third pick?
Well, I'm going to stick with Super Nintendo. This was not on purpose. I'm picking Earthbound because we need to talk about Earthbound. Oh, yeah. So this is another Super Nintendo game, but I did not play this when I was a child. I actually only played it for the first time 18 months, 2 years ago, something like that. And I mean, no game has been worse served by its ad campaign, because I can remember being a kid and thinking it's just gross out humor or whatever. It's no. This is a very laid back, funny, strange, existentially troubling game, and the music reflects all of those qualities. In most role-playing games, the battle music is really amp you up, and the boss music is holy crap, this is really portentous, blah, 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 blah. Whereas in Earthbound, it's like you're on a drug trip that's starting to turn bad, and you've just walked into the chill out room, and it's uh-oh. That's what the boss music sounds like. I just love the music in this game. It's just slightly queasy, and I like it, and it's so cool. I don't have a lot more to say, but it's a lightning round, so that's okay.
That is totally fine. Fantastic choice. I mean, I also just played Earthbound for the first time 2 years ago, maybe, and it is, of course, absolutely amazing, especially in its music, especially all the music jokes that are throughout it, Beatles references that just appear and
sample the Beatles in it.
Yeah, they did.
And let me tell you, not legally.
Nope.
Which is the best part. Like, oh,
Well,
okay.
the laws are different in Japan, as I
Yeah,
understand it, but still,
The
Yeah,
real
definitely
Sea
a
of
bit
Thieves.
sketchy.
not with permission. How about that?
Music is such a vivid descriptor for music. I'm very into that.
All right, fantastic. It is my turn for my final one. I said, what did I say? I said Katamari Damacy, and I said Breath of the Wild. And so for my final one, boy, friends, there are a lot of games that we haven't mentioned, and I'm sure we'll bring them out when we list out the ones that we didn't get to say. And I feel bad about some of the ones that I'm not going to be talking about, but I really want to go historic here. And I want to talk about the game that's usually called the game with the first continuous soundtrack in the background, because it is a great soundtrack. It is from Space Invaders.
Oh,
I don't know how many of you know about the soundtrack to Space Invaders or have thought of this. Pete, I'm sure you know about all about this, but there is basically a single bass line that runs throughout it. Every time the little aliens move across the screen, it plays a note, and that note is going down in it's the bass line for Hit the Road, Jack, or the Andalusian cadence. Boom, boom, boom. I'm doing it wrong. My voice is not warmed up. And of course, as you may know, if you've ever played this classic game where you're trying to shoot down the aliens from the sky, as they get closer down and as more and more of them are shot down by you, they get faster. And so there's a very natural, slow picking up the pace that just works wonders. It's so atmospheric. And this idea that you take these very simple elements, this very simple idea of this descending bass line that keeps repeating, that gets slightly faster, that is intimately tied with what's going on the screen. I mean, it's what's the term for that? Not environmental music, but responsive music or whatever that is, where the video game is changing the music because of what's happening on screen. Like this is a form of that, and it's just stunning, and it really does ratchet up the tension with these very simple things, and I do kind of love it for that.
So good.
Awesome.
It's awesome.
Early and fun.
All right. Before we bring out our dead and talk about the things that we didn't get a chance to pick, any thoughts about video game music that this conversation has brought up? I don't know if I have a good follow-up to go into this, except, boy, there's a lot of great video game soundtracks out there.
I think it's really cool that we really have a progression of music from some of the oldest video games to some of the newest ones, and I think that just goes to show how amazing music is in this medium and how how integral it's always been.
Definitely.
It's fun. It's fun work.
Video games make us feel feelings too.
Yes.
And that's good.
That's what my mind. Like so much of this music is so like emotionally responsive.
Yeah.
Exactly, and that's the thing is, like, even if people, even if you're completely opposed to the concept of video games, like, you could still definitely listen to the music and enjoy it. Like, it's not,
Yeah, take that, Ghost of Roger Ebert.
I'm always trying to stick it to him even after death.
All right. Well, on that note, we will talk about the things that we didn't get to pick. If there's a game that we didn't mention that you'd like to mention and you're watching this live, please put it in the comments and we will try to bring it out at the end of our lists. So, and we've got our first one in, but we will begin with Melissa, who gave us Dragon Age Origins, The Sims 3, Red Dead Redemption 2. What else were you thinking about? What else did you have on your list that got swiped?
I am really surprised that Mikey did not say this. Stardew Valley,
Oh, it's
which has
on my
an amazing soundtrack.
On my list.
Animal Crossing, all the Animal Crossings, including KK Slider. Guild Wars and Guild Wars 2. Basically anything by Jeremy Soule, including all of the Elder Scrolls series. Super Mario Brothers, the original, because that's just it. Maureen on Zur with Fallout 3 and Fallout 4. And a lesser known game that was very short lived but spawned a huge fan following was Glitch. I don't know if anybody knows that, but I could talk about that for a long time.
Okay, we don't have time for that, but I don't know anything about that. It's got a great and promising name, however. Excellent choices, and definitely some of those were on my list as well. Javier, you had Journey, Untitled Goose Game, and Papers, Please. What else has been on your mind?
Well, I also had Life is Strange with the jukebox musical set list combined with that gut-wrenching leitmotif, and I had What Remains of Edith Finch, which also is very emotional, but very different in all the songs. And Grease, also very emotional. Minecraft, which is so many tracks, so many bangers, 70 songs. Come on. and Pokemon Red, I guess, because it's such a such a nostalgic thing to have. And I also had the Jackbox Party Packs. They all have such amazing music.
Yeah.
Yep. That was on my list as well. Fantastic choices, all of them. Pete, you had Super Mario World, Rayman Origins, and Super Mario Galaxy. Any other Super Mario games on your list?
No, Space Channel 5 Part 2. A lot of fun on that one.
I love that
Also,
game.
Is that the karaoke one?
no, it's the one that has Michael Jackson as Space Michael, where he mispronounces the main character's name, which is fantastic.
It was like you had to press buttons to like do copy dance moves from
Yeah.
Aliens. It was
That's what it was. That's
Yeah,
what it was.
it was Simon Says, but like it was an earlier rhythm game. A lot of fun. Available on the PlayStation now. It's very, very good. So I think on the Xbox. The 140, which was a game by the people who made Limbo. The soundtrack is by Jakob Schmid. It is so very good. It's called 140 because the entire soundtrack is 140 beats per minute, and the entire game goes to the soundtrack. It gives you a sort of sense of synesthesia. It's really very fun. Also, you're talking about licensed music, Loom, which was just Swan Lake, but that was the first time. That was an old LucasArts game, point and click adventure game from the 90s. That was the first time I heard a soundtrack and thought, oh, I want to be a video game composer. So that was the one for me. Yep.
Nice.
Fantastic. A friend of the network, Kadal, was playing Loom.
I saw.
With her. Yeah. Fantastic stuff. All right. What was it? Who's okay? Yes. Sorry, those are all great. Adam, you had Mega Man 2, Sonic the Hedgehog 2, and Celeste. What else has been itching your trigger fingers?
I have a number of them, so I'll go through very quickly. On the Sega Genesis by Jesper Kyd, Batman the Animated Series, which is the most pumped up soundtrack I've ever heard in my life. On that note, Streets of Rage 2 for the Genesis by Yuzo Koshiro, Sonic 1, Sonic 3 and Knuckles, obviously, another little blue guy who loves to run, Ninja Gaiden for the Nintendo. I also have a note here that just says everything by Jeroen Tel, such as Afterburner and RoboCop 3 on the Commodore 64. Journey to Silius and Gremlins 2 The New Batch, which are both by Hudson Soft and have that great Hudson Soft bass sound. Booger Man for the Sega Genesis. Earthworm Jim for the Sega Genesis. Ignore anything else related to Earthworm Jim, but that music is so good. Castlevania 2, which gave us not just Bloody Tears, but my favorite Castlevania thing, The Monster Dance. Splatterhouse for the arcade. Undertale, which I'm surprised never came out.
Oh, God, right.
RoboCop and Darkman, the soundtrack for Game Boy and Nintendo, respectively, both by Jonathan Dunn. Crypt of the Necrodancer.
Oh, so good.
Phenomenal.
So fun.
Doom and Doom 2.
Yes.
And lastly, 2 arcade games by Konami, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Sunset Riders.
Amazing.
I remember Sunset Riders. That was
Bury me with my money.
I hope someone's writing all these down.
I was trying. I just gave up.
This video will be available for rewatching afterwards. So, so the Google the nice people at YouTube are going to be coming up with a transcript as well for automatic subtitles. It's fun. Yes, fantastic. Simone, you gave us Assassin's Creed 2, Tearaway, and Sea of Thieves. What else?
Okay. So Kingdom Hearts, I know we were kind of making fun of it a bit, but the soundtrack genuinely jams. And the theme songs, I think Simple and Clean or Sanctuary. I don't remember which one is from the first Kingdom Hearts, but by Utada Hikaru.
Simple and Clean.
So good, just like excellent J-pop. Assassin's Creed Syndicate by Austin Wintory brings violins into, like, heavily reliant on violins, and he also wrote English, like, folk songs to be sung in the pubs in the game. Delightful. Everybody's Gone to the Rapture. Desperately Sad. A lot of great chorus music. Little Big Planet, the original one. So discordant, just a bunch of weird whistles and record scratches, but it's so joyous. Return of the Obra Dinn. Oh, I love it. Now we already said, but then Final Fantasy VII, iconic, whether it's in the like original, more synthetic that's not the right word, but it's what I'm going to say, version from the PS1, or the full, lush, glorious orchestral versions, or the multitudes of fan adaptations of those songs that have been made over the years. It is an excellent soundtrack.
Fantastic. Sarah, you give us Silent Hill 2, Banjo-Kazooie, and The Witcher 3. What else has been on your list?
I also had Donkey Kong Country 2, Life is Strange. But my fourth pick was Lollipop Chainsaw, which is a little kind of unknown, but it's such a wild game, and it has a lot of licensed music, and just the fact that whenever you're on the menu screen, you hear, "Oh, Nikki, you're so fine, you're so fine." It's like I'm totally into it. My Final Fantasy pick is Final Fantasy X. I love all of the music from that game. Every other Silent Hill game, Mass Effect, the entire series. I think that the music just continuously gets better through each game. It's unbelievable, and a lot of it's Canadian. A game called Eternal Sonata, which was a Japanese game, and it was completely based. The main character is Chopin, so all of the music, and there's like these long moments in it that have Chopin music, and then all of the original soundtrack is kind of in the same vein of that. And a phone game called Grand Blue Fantasy, which has unbelievable music. And my final one is the Donkey Kong 64 game, because it started with the DK rap. I have it memorized from beginning to end.
Yes. I'm surprised that one doesn't start with "My name is Donkey and I'm here to say."
It's close enough, Adam.
Oh, fantastic. Michael, you gave us Chrono Trigger, Donkey Kong Country 2, and Earthbound. What else was on your list?
I have played games released in this century. What else on my list? So I had Mega Man 3, and I figured with 2 gone, I should skip that over. I had Final Fantasy 6. I also had Final Fantasy Mystic Quest, which is a terrible game, but the music is the only good part, and it's very good. And I recently found this guy who does instrumental metal covers of video game music, and he has a few tracks from Mystic Quest, and they rock. I have Skyrim. I have Oblivion. I have every Mario platformer I've ever played. I have Sid Meier's Pirates. Which is a weird choice. I have SimCity, SimCity 2000, SimCity 4. I have Stardew Valley. I have Mario Kart 8. Fucking amazing.
So good.
True.
I have World of Warcraft, just because those tracks are burned into my head from those couple of years that was a big time sink for me. I've never played Undertale, but I've heard music from it, and it's great. And I have Tetris.
Oh,
Yeah.
Well, there goes the last thing on my list that wasn't already mentioned. But before I read out my list, that was fantastic, of course. And I still can't believe you haven't played Undertale. What are you waiting for? It's right there. Before I say anything, let's see what our viewers have suggested. So Kadao offers The Last Express, which I can't remember if I've heard of or not.
I need to play that.
Yes, you do. This looks super interesting. Huh.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
And then we've got Oxenfree.
Yeah.
Tape rewind mechanic. I knew that was there. Does it affect the music as well? Is it like Braid? Braid does that in the background, but the music goes background. Abzu, by the same guy who did Journey. Oh, fantastic. We've got Fury.
Yes.
Oh, I don't know this game at all. But
yeah, Carpenter Brute did some tracks for it.
Oh. Bastion.
Yes, very good soundtrack.
Very good.
And Transistor.
I didn't want to blow up the spot of all the viewers who are saying all of the games from Supergiant Games, but yes, those soundtracks all rock.
Fantastic. Well, my list, I guess mostly said it. I put forward Katamari Damacy, Breath of the Wild, and Space Invaders. Also on my list were such games as Tetris, which is just such an earworm. Zelda 1, because I'm old and old school. Super Mario Brothers 1, which I still think is the best Super Mario Brothers game. But so it goes. Earthbound, of course, Sonic's 1 and 2, and the Jackbox games. I didn't have a lot of time to prep for this show, so I did not dig in. Let's just say something by Ryan Ike. Okay, cool. All right, I have some credit again. Fantastic. Well, thank you all for joining me for this game. It was a lot of fun. And we've learned a lot of things. I think everybody maybe walked away with a game that they might want to check out, as well as were reminded of some excellent music from games that they have poured their heart and soul and sweat and, thumb skin into. Thumb skin sounds terrible. Forget I said that. One last one. Mist and Ribbon. Very good.
Oh, Mist. Yeah.
Take us back. All right. Well, on that note, it is time to wrap up. So thank you, Simone. Thank you, Javier. Thank you, Mikey. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Adam. Thank you, Melissa. Thank you, Pete. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Like, follow, subscribe, do whatever is appropriate if you want to see more of this kind of content. And we are out of here.